Wow. Yeah, that's great. I love that. It's so good to see all of you, and I'm just going to dive right in here. This is what I want to talk to you about. Is there room for my whole self in Christianity? When I was going through much of my shift and evolving, when I was even thinking, I know I'm the minister of a big church about 15 miles of here, but I don't think there's room, at least in American Christianity, for me to fit in. And so, have you ever felt that? Maybe not. My guess is if you're at Spero Dei, you have. And then this little comment I wrote: what if the most spiritual thing you could be is human? And so this is what I want to share. Christian spirituality is not an escape from our humanity. It's a deeper attachment to it. So I realize that sentence might sound scandalous to some of you, depending on the version of Christianity you were handed. And so for many of us, what it meant to be spiritual, we were taught the art of subtraction. True piety meant less feeling, less flesh, less body, less desire, less mess. And it was, at least what I found in my experience, it was this slow erasure of my humanity, of what it means to be human in the first place. And what I found eventually, and I'm sad to say, 3 decades of this that spirituality wasn't defined by the depth of love and presence, but it was starting to be defined by how far the distance from humanity I was, and really reality. And so in many versions of American Christianity, or what I call Christianism, there's a big difference between Christianity and I think we have a lot of Christianism going on, especially what's prevalent, doctrinal, literalistic, the moralizing kind of Christianity. Somehow in all of that, our humanity was recast as the sinful villain. And we were told things like we're to die to ourselves, we're to resist the body's longings, we're to silence our emotions, we're to get over our grief, we're to overcome fear, and to grow suspicious of anything that feels too tender, too beautiful, too alive. We even coined a word for it. It was called fleshly, as if the very material we are made of is now an enemy of God, which goes completely contrarian to our tradition's belief in Christ's incarnation. Jesus didn't find his flesh an enemy to God. So let's be honest. That version of faith, for many of us, it never freed us, did it? It actually literally made us afraid of our own skin. It led us to distrust pleasure, to perform piety, to overthink what should be simple, sacred acts of love. It severed ourselves in the name of being spiritual. We all went through I'm loving the show Severance, as I'm sure a lot of you are. We kind of went through we severed ourselves. And I don't know about you, but it eventually exhausted me. And I stood in places I had the key job in the corner office, and I was fried. But what what if Christian spirituality isn't a ladder we climb up and away from our humanity? What if Christian spirituality is actually like a well that we plunge deep into until we find God not above us, but God actually in our brains, in our bones, in our blood? And so there is a very interesting scene in the New Testament as we lead up to Easter. We're in Lent now. If you follow the church calendar, we're actually getting close to Easter. And the story I'm sharing with you is just a little over a week away from the crucifixion of Jesus. But there's this interesting scene that I think kind of highlights this contrarian view. And I have to admit, I've heard a zillion sermons, as you can imagine. I've given a bunch of them. Most of them I've thrown out at this point. But this scene, it's not flashy. There's no cool miracles. There's no thunderbolt theology. It's just a woman in a room with a man who's about to die. And she doesn't speak, she doesn't explain anything. She simply kneels down and does something that I'm going to show you, which is so uncomfortably human. So here's the scene, and then I'll read the passage. In this scene, it's 6 days before Passover. The air is already thick with threat. Jesus has raised Lazarus from the dead, and now the religious leaders, the religious establishment wants to kill him, and they're making plans to kill him. So death is circling, tensions are high, and in the middle of this pressure cooker of politics, Roman occupation, a religious theocracy that is controlling everything, fear, divine momentum, in the middle of all of this, Jesus goes into a simple house and he has dinner. He's not in the temple, he's not preaching, he's in someone's home, which is likely modest, crowded, warm, and Lazarus is right there, alive. Unbelievable. And Martha is serving and showing her good hospitality as usual. And then Mary walks in unexpected and does this very weird human thing. Let me read this to you. 6 days before the Passover festival, Jesus went to Bethany. That is where Lazarus lived, the man Jesus raised from death. There, they had a dinner for Jesus. Martha served the food, and Lazarus was one of the people eating with Jesus. Mary brought in a pint of expensive perfume made of pure nard. She poured the perfume on Jesus' feet. She wiped his feet with her hair, and the sweet smell from the perfume filled the whole house. Judas Iscariot, one of Jesus' followers, was there, the one who would later hand Jesus over to his enemies. Judas said that perfume was worth a full year's pay. It should have been sold, and the money should have been given to the poor people. But Judas did not really care about the poor. He said this because he was a thief, and he was the one who kept the money bag for the group of followers, and often stole money from the bag. Jesus answered, "Don't stop her. It was right for her to save this perfume for today, the day for me to be prepared for burial. You will always have those who are poor with you, but you will not always have me." So Mary, right in the middle of this dinner, does something unexpected. She brings this expensive perfume and pours it all over Jesus' feet. Now, this is not the kind of perfume, you spritz on your neck when you're going out for the evening. This is imported nard. I have no clue what nard is. I have absolutely no clue. In fact, I would say, I've taught this verse before. In my over 6 decades of life, I bet I've said nard 14 times. And so, but here's what we do know about this perfume. It was deeply, deeply aromatic. It was wildly expensive. It was worth nearly an entire year's wages. What she just did was a financial absurdity. And she does something unspeakably strange. She doesn't dab a little on his wrist. She doesn't hand it to him as a gift respectfully. She breaks the jar, pours the entire thing on his feet, and then starts to use her own hair as a cloth. Now let that image linger for a minute. In that culture, hair, untied, unbound, exposed, it was considered deeply intimate for a woman in that culture. And then touching a man's feet, that was socially transgressive. Doing both of those things in public, scandalous. And she does it. And she's not simply being emotional. She's actually defying boundaries, gendered ones, religious ones, economic ones, social ones. And it's important that the hero of this story is feminine. And Mary is breaking an unspoken rule, which is there is appropriate religious behavior, and you're way out of bounds. And when she does, fragrance fills the entire house. The whole house smells like this beautiful perfume. Now, for centuries, certainly since the Reformation, and particularly evangelical interpretations of this passage, this story usually gets turned into a tidy object lesson about devotion. Mary becomes the quiet poster child of extravagant worship of what we're all supposed to do. And Judas is simply the greedy villain who stands in her way. This whole scene is usually moralized into a message this simple: Jesus worship above everything. Bam, end of story. Case closed. But I'm going to offer my opinion, and you don't have to agree. Certainly feel free to disagree. I think the story being bam, Jesus worship over everything, for me, that gives me a major ick. To me, it objectifies Jesus. It turns Jesus into an object. It actually turns Christ into an idol. And there are churches all around here practicing this. But I think something different is happening here. This isn't about weighing spiritual options. Mary is not calculating anything. This is a woman entering a moment of divine proximity, and she aware of it, and she's refusing to let it pass, regardless of what people think of her. And so this story isn't about religious categories. It's actually about this woman's courage, actually her human courage. And it's about embodied, uncalculated love in the face of death. It's about a woman who doesn't wait to be anything other than fully human that day, fully spiritual and fully present. So what do you say? At least this is what I try to do here. What do you say we try to look beyond making this story a mere morality tale, but as a spiritual saturation into the sacredness of actually being human, where trusting your sacredness, trusting your body, trusting your body's wisdom, offering beauty however you think beauty is, without any explanation, and living awake to the sacredness of now. So Mary does 3 moves here, and I want to see if I have time to get through all 3 moves. But Mary does 3 moves here that are important for our own humanness. Her first move is she wiped his feet with her hair. Her first move is her body. And what I want to say to you, different than you may have been taught in your Christian spirituality, your body is not a barrier. Your body is actually a sacred offering. And so she anoints his feet, wipes them with her hair, no words, no explanation, just her body, just her breath, just her nearness. And let's be honest, it's intimate, shockingly so. Her body is involved, kneeling, touching, hair down, skin on skin, and in its fullest sense, are you ready? It's sensuous, not sexual. Sensuous means experiencing your senses in every way. This is embodied love. Scent fills the room. Fingers glide across skin. Hair becomes soft cloth. Nothing about what she's doing is casual, and nothing about what she is doing with her body is shameful. None of it. It's so tender, so physical, so human, it's even making some of us in this room squirm right now. Because why? We've been taught to be suspect or moralize the proximity of our bodies at times. But how does Jesus respond? He doesn't. He doesn't recoil. He doesn't redirect her. He doesn't spiritualize the moment to make it easier for everybody in the room to digest. He doesn't do any of that. He receives it fully, and her body becomes the offering. And that's what's revolutionary. Because let's be honest, some of us in this room inherited some pretty unhealthy images of our body, didn't we? Our culture tells us 2 things about our body. We either make them venerations of worship, or we make them objects of shame. Either way, they're objectified. And how about our religion? Especially some of the more rigid, doctrinal, dogmatic strains some of us came up in. It only made our thoughts about our body, our sexuality, how we were created, even worse. And the body was framed as a threat to your holiness, right? Your body will tempt you, your mind will take you away, all these things. And so what happened? We were taught, or we automatically detached from our bodies. Or we ignored them. And they tried to tell us that this was spiritual maturity, wasn't it? But it's actually fear. You know, there's been a lot of research done on purity culture, and several research studies have shown that individuals raised in high control religious environments where purity is lifted up, where suppressing sexuality, where associating abstinence with piety, that people that experience that, they experience body shame on par with those who have actually experienced physical, mental, emotional, and sexual trauma. It's equal to that for some. And that, they told us, was spiritual formation. That's damage. But then Mary walks in. And she doesn't analyze. She doesn't perform some holy ritual to authenticate or prove her devotion. She inhabits the moment fully, honestly, sensually, and she doesn't transcend her body. She trusts it, listens to it. And now it's the language of her love. Her act isn't calculated or curated. There's no disembodied piety here. And she has no fear. And what she does is intensely natural and human. And what makes it so sacred is Mary doesn't escape her humanity in her moment. She fully leans into it. So as I say often around here, Christian spirituality is not escape from our humanity. It's a deeper attachment to it. And so it's not floating above your body. It's not critiquing or judging every sensation. It's not trying to spiritualize your way out of your body. It's about returning to it, the breath, the skin, the longing. And so maybe being spiritual doesn't mean denying our bodies. Maybe it means listening to it. Maybe it means bringing our full self into the room, skin, scent, sorrow, grief, laughter, joy, and offering it all genuinely and with tenderness. Here's another move she makes. And the sweet smell from perfume filled the whole house. Her next move is beauty. What she offers is beauty, the fragrance of an unapologetic love. And when she comes in, it's quiet, it's subtle, but it didn't go unnoticed. Mary broke the jar of perfume, and when she did, that entire room changed. The scent moved through the air. It moved past conversations, past status, past any religious rules or expectations. It settled into the walls, into the curtains, into people's hair, and every person had no choice other than to breathe it in and smell it. And Jesus doesn't call that excessive. He doesn't redirect her to something more useful. Jesus holds that moment as beautiful. It's a beautiful thing she did. And he receives it as a sacred act, not because it's practical, but because it's genuine. That's what makes it beautiful. And so she didn't posture a righteous act. She just gave what she had, something fragrant, something costly, something really even unnecessary. But she gave it in love. And that's the thing about beauty. It just is. Beauty doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't have to justify itself. It simply arrives whole and honest and undeserved. And when it does, it fills the room. And again, in our world, especially with the kind of American Christianism we have, beauty has been dismissed or domesticated, or it's been redefined. Beauty is the reward of good religious behavior. There's acts of beauty. When you're moral, when you're pure, when you're righteous, when you're modest, when you're obedient, these are the things of beauty. And then those are the things that get celebrated. And some of us did that well for a long time. And we didn't experience beauty, did we? But what about the other kind of beauty? The beauty of loving someone that the world has cast out. The beauty of LGBTQ plus people finding a home in their bodies with their partner in the church. What about the beauty of black and brown joy flourishing despite oppression? Or the beauty of an exhausted mother rocking her child at night? Or the beauty of art or poetry or softness or color or queerness or grief or laughter of all things human? All things human. Because when we offer beauty from our full humanity, when we create or feel or witness something that stirs us to tears or to silence, that too is spiritual. And that's a spiritual offering. And I'll tell you what, at Spero Dei, as I try to lead this place, but really with all of you, I feel part of my, I've been at this a long time. I've been at this since I was 22, and I'll turn 64 this summer. And I feel like, for whatever I give this a go at, I'd like to undo some of that and see if we can make Christianity more beautiful again. And I love this about you, that you are a community moved by beauty, and you're not afraid of it. And so we don't want to just tolerate our humanity, but we want to embrace it as sacred. Here's the final move she makes. You will always have those who are poor with you, but you will not have me. Her next move is now. She moves in the now, in the moment. And she's free enough in that moment to pour it out. And so I want to make one thing clear here. When Jesus gives that response to Judas, by no means is Judas dismissing the poor at all. And we can show that through the Gospels. That's not what he's doing. What he is doing is he's naming the moment. He's saying something painfully honest. You won't always have this chance. The chance is now. The move is now. This touch, this breath, this presence, it's now. Don't miss it. And Mary doesn't. She doesn't overthink it. She doesn't over-spiritualize it. She doesn't need any permission from the men in the room. She pours, she touches, she gives, not because it's impulsive, because she is the only one in the room awake. She's the only one awake. And she's attuned to what's real. And she's so grounded in her body. She is so grounded in her spirituality that when love comes near, she senses it and she goes, I move now, man. I go now. And she just feels the sacredness of the now. And I'm telling you, that is not spontaneity. It's like, oh, she's spontaneous. That's not spontaneous. Spontaneous. That's spiritual awareness. She's aware. And Mary doesn't escape her humanness in that moment. She fully recognizes it. And that's an invitation for us to understand the now. I know we have a lot of songs, live like you're dying. And I get that. But I don't think this story is about live urgently because death is near. It's actually saying live openly because you're alive. Live now because you're alive. It's about life. But Judas, he doesn't get it, does he? He stands in a stark contrast. Judas is in the room too. He breathes the perfume, the same air, the smell, and he misses it. He doesn't kneel, he doesn't feel, he doesn't pour. He calculates, he manages, he critiques. He chooses control over connection, cynicism over closeness, safety over surrender. And then he speaks with such moral authority, but his heart is far away. But before we judge him too harshly, well, I won't speak for you. Before I judge him too harshly, I've been there. And he has this voice that says, hey, what do you say, let's wait. What do you say we wait for something more appropriate? What do you say we make sure this is worth it? Let's keep it neat. Let's not be dramatic. Don't be vulnerable. Don't risk too much. And I know what our tradition says about Judas, that he betrayed Jesus with a kiss. But here, he betrays Jesus with distance, with disconnection. And maybe that's the real tragedy for all of us, right? To be physically present, but spiritually and relationally unavailable. To be surrounded by beauty, but too defended to receive it. To stand near the sacred and still not be awakened by it. Because we were trying too hard to stay controlled, righteous, managed. But Mary, Mary's free. She's free. Well, I've said enough. I think you get it. Well, let me pray, everybody. God of skin and scent, God of touch and timing, Christ of here and now. We breathe in and we breathe out, and we remember that this moment is enough. We bring to you our bodies not as obstacles to holiness, but as sacred vessels of love, places where you already dwell. We bring our beauty, the beauty we've doubted, the beauty we've hidden, the beauty we feared might be too much. God, receive it all and let it rise like perfume. And God, we bring our timing, and it's not always perfect, and it's often messy, sometimes late, but we bring it now, the only moment we truly have. And we offer it with open hearts and open hands. God, free us from the lie that we must escape our humanity to find you. Remind us that this breath, this ache, this body, this joy, it's sacred ground. And when the sacred moment comes, whether it's joy or grief or beauty or grace, give us the courage to say yes, to kneel, to pour, to love without apology. God, we don't want to spectate grace. We want to join in it. So may we be brave. May we be tender and loving. And may we be aware and ready. In Christ's name. Amen.